During the final quarter of 2023, BYD emerged as the leading electric vehicle manufacturer in terms of sales, with 526,409. All of them were actually delivered, so that's not sales, that's actually vehicles delivered in the last quarter. With that actually means they delivered more than Tesla, because Tesla did 484,507. I have notes up here. I don't remember all of the numbers all the time. Not always, I often have numbers like here. So to put that into perspective, that's about 17,500 cars delivered every day to a customer by BYD, the company, all around the globe. And I think it was about 10,000 a day a year ago. So that's incredible, really stunning. So I was going to talk a bit about the new admission by Toyota, about Toyota basically doing their version of Dieselgate, and they've been cheating the tests on on their Hilux and also the Toyota Prado, and I think there were some others I can't remember. So they have had to halt shipment of Toyotas for a while. I think that's big news. A little bit underreported for some reason, but it is pretty big news. So I reckon they will be getting some massive fines for that. BYD sold 1.8 million cars or vehicles in 2022, and then 2023 they sold over 3 million. They actually passed their target of 3 million by the end of the year, and profits from 2023 came up by almost 85% from 2022. So profits, huge profits. They're doing super well. And I think that it is pretty clear that people want BYD cars, because they really can't sell enough of them, I don't think. And it's amazing. Interestingly, they sold 3 million cars in 2023, and almost 1/3 of those were the BYD Seagull by the end of the year. Almost 1/3 were the little tiny cheap car. And they could have had an extra customer if they would have messaged me, I reckon. So almost entirely in China, to literally a handful were sent abroad. Almost 100% of them literally in China. That's what it was. But this year we will see them go abroad more so, and for sure over the next few years there will be a BYD Seagull available in places. I suspect the UK and on the continent in Europe. I can actually, if I can actually live in a country where they will sell me one, I will buy one, because I think importing them seems a bit of a hassle. I've really considered importing one. Citigroup, the investment bank, big global investment bank, they suggested, this is not from BYD's mouth, by the way, that BYD will sell only about 3.68 million in 2024 this year. So the jump won't be as high this year, so they say. And actually, Citibank had a pretty accurate prediction last year with the 3 million. So, maybe that's something to go by. The market has definitely changed, and there's more competition, and a lot of people that wanted and actually could afford to buy a very viable EV like a BYD. They've actually done that. They've actually bought it. And so, now that rate should slow down a bit, somewhat, But as EVs get cheaper, and then the more exposure people have with EVs, and go have a passenger ride in one, that sort of thing, they will sell more of them. I think this will just keep on snowballing. I think because I think for most people, they would agree that they are nicer to drive and nicer to be in. And if you're not too concerned about the range aspect of of electric cars being less typically than a petrol or diesel, then you'll potentially just really like them, I reckon, if you've never been in one. So basically, BYD made almost 86% more money this year than they did last year, and their sales have gone through the roof, but actually through the roof, not clickbait, through the roof. And they really can't produce them quick enough, it seems. A statistic was released, a very interesting one, which I only saw today by Statista. Last year in September it was released, having simply asked people what fuel type for their next car they are considering. Interestingly, in a country like Australia, the statistic was based in Australia. A lot of people don't really like EVs in Australia. 28% of people, of the respondents, said electric, like actually clicked ticked electric. So a lot of people, not just hybrid too, that was a separate one. I'll put it on the screen now, but electric, which I think is amazing, really. I think the price is the main concern, I would imagine. And I guess that, most people would buy something like a Seagull if they could, because the range is great. I think the range is hundreds of kilometers. It's reasonable, and it has cooling on it, proper cooling if you get the expensive version of the Seagull, which is only $1,700 more US actually than the cheapest version. So it's, why would you get the cheapest one? You could leave Brisbane, charge your car up, leave Brisbane on the east coast of Australia, drive inland to Toowoomba, and then drive all the way home after having driven around Toowoomba a little bit on a single charge and have plenty left. And I think if you need a charger, I don't think you struggle to find a charger in Toowoomba for half an hour or an hour or something like that. And I think if more people had an EV in a country like Australia, then there would probably be so much more solar parks being built and wind turbines and way more chargers being built. And I think the money is definitely in Australia to do that. The state governments have immense riches, huge money. Like I was saying recently, in Queensland, they made $500 million profit last year just from stationary speed cameras, and that's immense. And so they're actually going to spend that again on over the next 3 years installing more stationary. So lucky you, I reckon. So Australia is one of the richest countries in the world in terms of energy potential from the sun, and very, very, very sunny a lot of the time. And even when it's not, you still get a fair bit of energy from through the clouds, to get on your solar panels. So the state have a huge amount of money, so it's a no-brainer, I think, if you live in Australia, and to have solar panels. And if you like electric cars and you can afford one, probably get one as well. If not just because it is very satisfying and it's a very lovely way to transport yourself around, I think. I remember when I had my Prius years ago, when I last lived in Norway, and a person suggested to me that they thought that I thought I was being green in my Prius, but I simply said, it's just a nice car to drive. Electric cars or hybrids, they're just nice cars to drive. And they don't vibrate when the air conditioning's on, or they don't vibrate when you're sat in traffic like a diesel or something. It just feels calmer, like a more calmer version, of a car. It's a lovely thing. So, and also cheaper to run, which I think is a big thing. And in fairness, cars are never green. They can't be. It's 1 or 2 tons of metal that's been built in a factory and then shipped around so that a privileged Westerner can drive their car to go get milk. That's on a global scale, we're in the top so many percent. That's not normal. Out of all the 8 billion people on the planet, that's a big luxury, I think. So if you want to be green and there's no major issue with like the climate being too hot or something, then you really should be riding your bike. I think you should ride a bike for multiple reasons. It's good for your health, and it is a bit less impactful on the environment, and there's less you're not putting out diesel particulates, for example. So for most of us, I think a car is something that gives us freedom, and so we choose a car because you can't ride on cruise control for 1,500 kilometers, but you can drive a car for 1,500 kilometers. You get the idea. So before I carry on, I just wanted to show you a couple of things. Some people have said, what is this? This was one of them. This is a Xiaomi 210 watt power bank, and it is I think it's called a ZMI. It's a Xiaomi ZMI 210. That's what that is. That's got lithium ion cells in it, not phosphate, just lithium ion. Really awesome thing. I have that, so it can put out 100 watts and 100 watts and something else. This is I always get asked what this is. This is I hope this comes out on camera all right. The All Powers R600. I'm not going to give you a link with any sort of, you can find your own links and buy one. But this is, I've had a few, a Blue Yeti, EcoFlow, and the All Powers, really, really good, really reliable. The input is like, I think it's 12 to 60 volts, which I think is pretty wide. 12 amps max. That can take hundreds of watts from your solar, for example, and it can put out 600 watts in total out of the two plugs. It can actually do 650, and 100 watts out, USB-C, and these are, I think, 18 watts USB-A's, and you know, really awesome. Has some other outputs. Really cool thing. Thermal management in there. It's got like, I think, 2 or 3 fans in there, and wireless charging on top, and it just feels really solid. The issue I had with oh, I have better shorts on today. Thank you, Stephen. It's been very hot, by the way, in Brisbane. You know, in my office here with the air conditioning on, when it's a real hot Queensland day, it's still touching 30 in my office. It's really hot. So on a rare day, I am hot in here. And, you know, I get lectured if I do that. You know, if I have my shirt undone, or so that explains, you know. So I do recommend, if you want one of those, they're really awesome things. And, you know, I would probably stick with All Powers. I've had 3 of the All Powers ones. The R600 is awesome, and I think the BYD, I would stay away from them. You know, when I had a BYD, smoke immediately came out of one of them, and it just had a stench about it, like a stink. Just was a bit, you know, ropey, and didn't feel as good. And the All Powers feels like a really beautiful finesse product. And when you open it up, of course, I'm a bit of an electric geek. I have opened it up inside it. Really well made, beautifully made. So that's very good. So I'll carry on. I think BYD is going to become mainstream in the next 10 years. It's going to be a mainstream brand. You could say to someone, I've got a Ford or a Toyota or a BYD or Fiat. You know, I think that's where it's going to go. MG have the head start on that. You know, they were out for a few years because the brand was sold, I think, to the Russians and then to the Chinese. And it went away for a few years. They sold none of them, and they've come back. So, for example, I think it's 2017 in Australia, they sold something like 700 MGs in the whole year for the whole of Australia, because it was going through a rocky patch. And then I think it was 2021, they sold 50,000, I think it was. Don't quote me on that. So, you know, brands like MG have a bit of a heads up, I think. They've got that for them. So they're ploughing through the West, obviously. People love them. How can we stop that? You know, because I don't think the EU doing their little investigation with, you know, these few people going to China to do a bit of a probe and walk around the factories is going to change anything. So that's not a good thing, I don't think. BYD cars are simply too good, and they're already here for sale, and they are selling quite well. So those of you that actually own a BYD, such as, I think, one of you, Knut i Norge, du kjører en BYD, tror jeg, and rusty Norwegian. I used to speak Norwegian every day. I used to think Norwegian, speak Norwegian. Now I'm a little bit rusty. Dårlig norsk. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments. I'm really interested to know what are your thoughts on this. And also, almost nobody's mentioned the investigation in the comments by the EU, and they've sent people to China to, you know, come up with some things. So I'm interested to know what you have to say about that. And because it is weird. What do you think they're going to say when they get back, you know, in due course? Because they probably already knew what they were going to say before they left, I suspect. And they're going to just come back and say, no, we've assessed and we think you should still buy a Volkswagen. You don't want any of that Chinese stuff. You need to buy a Volkswagen product from us. So, you know, that's what it is. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to subscribe if you enjoy these sort of videos. And maybe this one was a bit more, this was potentially more ranty. Anyway, yeah, BYD, obviously killing it, doing really, really well. And I think that's a good thing. I just wish they would take my money for a BYD Seagull. I really do. I would love, I mean, my dream, I suppose, would be that I could buy an affordable electric car and it not feel like I've just laid down enough money for, you know, a small house. just, you know, normal money, Honda Jazz type money, and it's electric. It does 400 kilometers on the charge. Awesome. And it's a BYD. Doubly awesome, you know? So, thank you for watching.